I counted the coins 3 times before I left the apartment. $743 in quarters, dimes, nickels. The bank teller had looked at me like I was wasting her time when I asked if I could exchange them for bills. She said the machine was broken. She said I'd have to come back tomorrow. Tomorrow my rent was late. Tomorrow meant a $50 fee I couldn't afford on top of rent I could barely make. So I rolled them myself. 42 rolls. It took me 3 hours sitting on my apartment floor with my back against the wall and my fingers going numb. The paper wrappers were cheap, the kind that tore if you weren't careful. I was careful. I had to be. Every coin mattered. Every single one. My fingers still smelled like metal when I was done. Copper and nickel and that strange bitter scent that coins carry, like they've passed through too many hands, absorbed too much desperation. The paper wrappers had left red creases in my palms that wouldn't fade for days. I put them in a canvas bag that used to hold library books, back when I had time to read, back when I had energy for anything other than survival. The bag was heavy. Heavier than it should have been. Like it carried more than just money. Like it carried proof of every failed choice that had led me here. I walked 4 blocks to the property management office because the bus would have cost me $2 I needed to keep. It was November, and the wind cut through my coat, the one with the missing button that I kept meaning to replace, but never did because who had time? Who had energy? Who had anything left over after just getting through each day? My feet hurt. I worked overnight shifts at a diner and I'd just gotten off an hour ago and my feet always hurt. I'd learned to ignore it. I'd learned to ignore a lot of things. The property management office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation place that was only open during tax season. The office itself was small, just a waiting area with plastic chairs and a counter with bulletproof glass that had been installed after someone threw a brick through the window 2 years ago. I knew this because Mrs. Chen, who lived in the apartment below mine, had told me. Mrs. Chen knew everything. She'd lived in our building for 20 years and she remembered when the neighborhood was different, before the factory closed, before people started leaving, before rent got so high that people like me were paying $743 for a studio with a radiator that only worked half the time. The woman behind the counter was new. Young, maybe 22 or 23, with acrylic nails that were too long to be practical, painted a bright coral pink that looked expensive. She had perfect makeup, foundation that matched her skin exactly, eyeliner that made her eyes look bigger, lips glossed to a shine. She looked like she'd never counted coins on her apartment floor. She looked like she'd never had to. She was on her phone when I walked in. Didn't look up. I stood there for a moment, waiting. The bag of coins was heavy in my hand. I set it down on the counter with a soft thud that made her glance up, annoyed. "Can I help you?" She didn't sound like she wanted to help me. "I need to pay my rent." She looked at the bag. Something changed in her face. A flicker of recognition, maybe. Or judgment. Probably judgment. "Apartment number? 312. She typed it into her computer. Clicked a few times. $743. Yes. I lifted the bag. "It's all here." She looked at the bag again, then at me, then back at the bag. "What's in there?" "Money." "What kind of money?" "Coins. Rolled coins. $743 exactly." I counted it 3 times. Her expression shifted. Not quite a smile, more like satisfaction. Like she'd been waiting for something interesting to happen and I'd just provided it. "We don't accept change." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "It's not change, it's rolled coins. Legal tender. It's going to take forever to count." I already counted it, 3 times. It's $743. I still have to verify it. Then verify it. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms. "I don't have time for this today. You'll have to go to the bank and get bills." The bank said their machine is broken. They said I have to come back tomorrow. That's not my problem. Behind me, I heard the door open. Someone else coming in. The line was forming. I could feel eyes on my back. The lease says I can pay in legal tender. Coins are legal tender. Ma'am, you're holding up the line. I'm trying to pay my rent. With change. She said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Loud enough to make sure they all knew that I was the problem. That I was the one causing the delay. That I was the one paying rent in coins like some kind of desperate... It's not change, I said again. My voice was quieter now, steadier. It's rolled coins. $743. Everything I have. She shrugged. Just shrugged. Like my desperation was boring to her. Like my struggle was an inconvenience. I'm sorry, but you'll have to go to the bank and get bills. We can't process this. The lease says, Ma'am, there's a line. Behind me, someone sighed. Loud, exaggerated. A man's voice, frustrated. Come on. Some of us have places to be. I closed my eyes for just a second, tried to breathe, tried to think. If I left now, if I went back to the bank tomorrow, the rent would be late. The late fee would hit. $50 I didn't have. And if I couldn't pay the late fee, they'd start the eviction process. I'd seen it happen to Mr. Rodriguez in 2008. 3 months and he was gone. I reached for the bag. My hands were shaking. I was going to leave. Going to figure something out. I'll cover it. The voice came from directly behind me. Low. Calm. The kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to be heard. I turned. He was tall. That was the first thing I noticed. Tall and well-dressed in a way that didn't belong in this neighborhood. Dark coat that looked expensive. Clean hands. Hair that had been cut recently, professionally. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the woman behind the counter, and something about his gaze made her sit up straighter. Made the boredom disappear from her face. That's not necessary, I said. It's done. He pulled out a wallet. Leather. The kind that probably cost more than my rent. He extracted a credit card and held it out to the woman. She took it like it might burn her. Sir, I can't just... You can. He said it so quietly I almost didn't hear it, but she did. Everyone did. There was something in his voice, not a threat. Not exactly. Just certainty. The kind of certainty that came from never being told no. She ran the card. Her fingers fumbled on the keyboard. She handed him the receipt and he signed it without looking at it. His signature a quick scrawl that could have been anything. I stood there with my bag of coins, my face burning, my hands shaking. You didn't have to do that. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. His eyes were gray. Not blue-gray or green-gray. Just gray. The color of pavement after rain. The color of smoke. The color of something solid and unmovable. There was no pity in them. No judgment. Just attention. Complete, unwavering attention that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. What's your name? He asked. Vera. Vera? He said it like he was testing how it felt in his mouth. Like he was memorizing it. Go home, Vera. You're paid through the month. I can't just... You can. You are. He said it with the same quiet certainty he'd used with the woman behind the counter. Like my protests didn't matter. Like the decision was already made. He walked past me, toward the door. I watched him go. Watched the way people moved out of his path without him asking. Watched the way he carried himself. Like he owned the building. Like he owned the whole damn street. Wait, I said. I need to pay you back. He stopped, turned to look at me over his shoulder. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Vera. He said my name like a period at the end of a sentence. Final. Definitive. Go home. Then he was gone. Out the door, into the November cold. I watched him through the glass. He got into a car. Black. Expensive. A driver in the front seat. The car pulled away from the curb and disappeared into traffic. The woman behind the counter was staring at me. "Do you know him?" "No." That was Cade Harrow. She said it like I should know what that meant. Like it was important. I didn't know. I didn't care. I just wanted to leave. "Okay," I said. "Okay?" She leaned forward, interested now in a way she hadn't been before. "Cade Harrow just paid your rent and you don't even know who he is? Should I?" She laughed. It wasn't a friendly sound. "Yeah, you should." I picked up my bag of coins and left. Walked the 4 blocks back to my apartment in the cold. My feet hurt. My hands hurt. Everything hurt. But my rent was paid and I had a month to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. That night, I sat on my apartment floor and tried to give the money back. I didn't have his number. I didn't have his address. I Googled his name and found almost nothing. A few business registrations, a mention in a real estate deal from 3 years ago, a blurry photo from some charity event where he was standing in the background, his face half turned away from the camera. Nothing that told me who he was or how to find him. Nothing that explained why he'd paid rent for a stranger. I kept the coins, all 42 rolls. I put them in a shoebox under my bed and tried not to think about what they represented. Tried not to think about the fact that I'd been so desperate that I'd walked into that office with a bag of change. Tried not to think about the way that woman had looked at me, the way everyone had looked at me. Tried not to think about Cade Harrow and his gray eyes and the way he'd said my name like it mattered. 3 days later, I saw him again. I worked the overnight shift at a diner off the interstate, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week. The pay was $7.25 an hour plus tips. The tips were decent if you didn't mind drunks and long-haul truckers and the occasional group of kids coming down from whatever they'd taken at whatever party they'd left. I didn't mind. I needed the money. And I liked the quiet hours between 3 and 5 when the place was usually empty and I could refill the salt shakers and wipe down the counters and think about nothing at all. The diner was called Rosie's, even though there was no Rosie and probably never had been. It was the kind of place that looked exactly like every other diner. Red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floor, a counter with stools that spun, a jukebox that hadn't worked in years. The coffee was terrible and the food was mediocre, but it was cheap, and it was open 24 hours, and that was enough. My manager was a man named Dennis who was 53 and had been working at Rosie's for 20 years. He spent most of his shifts in the back office smoking cigarettes and watching videos on his phone. He didn't bother me and I didn't bother him. It was a good arrangement. There were 3 other waitresses on rotation. Marcy worked days. She was 45 with 2 kids and a husband who'd left her for someone younger. Janet worked evenings. She was 19 and saving up for community college. And then there was me, working overnights because the pay was slightly better and because I didn't sleep well anyway. Cade came in at 2 in the morning on a Wednesday. I was refilling the ketchup bottles when I heard the door. Looked up. Saw him standing there, looking around the empty diner like he was deciding where to sit. He chose a corner booth, sat down, picked up the menu without opening it. I recognized him immediately. Thought about pretending I didn't. Thought about sending Janet over to take his order even though Janet had left an hour ago. Thought about hiding in the kitchen until he left. I didn't do any of those things. I grabbed a coffee pot and walked over to his booth. Set down a cup. Filled it without asking if he wanted any. "Coffee." "Thank you." I waited for him to say something else. He didn't. Just looked at the menu. "Do you want to order?" I asked. "Not yet." "Okay." I turned to leave. "Vera." I stopped, turned back. "You remember?" "Yes." "What are you doing here? having coffee. At 2 in the morning, at this diner. Is that unusual? I looked at him, at his expensive coat hanging on the hook by the booth, at his clean hands wrapped around the coffee cup, at the way he sat like he belonged here even though he clearly didn't. Yeah, it is. He almost smiled. Almost. Sit with me. I'm working. There's no one else here. There wasn't. The diner was completely empty. Had been for over an hour. Dennis was in the back. The kitchen was closed. It was just me and Cade Harrow and the fluorescent lights humming overhead. I sat down across from him. Waited. You didn't deposit the coins, he said. My heart skipped. How do you know that? He didn't answer. Just sipped his coffee and watched me over the rim of the cup. Have you been following me? I asked. I've been paying attention. That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving you. I should have been scared. Should have stood up and walked away and maybe called the police even though I knew the police wouldn't care. But there was something in the way he said it. Not threatening. Not predatory. Just factual. Like he was telling me the sky was blue or water was wet. Why? I asked. Because you needed help. I didn't ask for it. You shouldn't have to. I stared at him. Tried to understand. Tried to make sense of this man who paid rent for strangers and showed up at diners in the middle of the night and said things like, you shouldn't have to ask for help, like it was obvious, like it was simple. What do you want from me? I said finally. Nothing you're not willing to give. That doesn't mean anything. It will. He finished his coffee, set down the cup, pulled out his wallet and left $100 bill on the table. Way too much for a cup of coffee. Way too much for anything. I can't take that, I said. You can. You will. He stood up, put on his coat. Good night, Vera. He walked out. I watched him through the window. Watched him get into the same black car with the same driver. Watched the car pull away. I picked up the $100 bill and put it in my pocket and tried not to think about what it meant. He came back the next night, and the night after that, and the night after that. Always between 2 and 3 in the morning. Always the same booth. Always coffee, black, nothing else. He never stayed long. 20 minutes. 30 at most. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. He'd ask me questions. Small things. Where I was from. How long I'd been in the city. What I'd done before this. I told him. I don't know why. Maybe because it was easier than not telling him. Maybe because there was something about the way he listened. Like my answers actually mattered. Like I actually mattered. I was from a small town in Pennsylvania. Population 3,000. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone and nothing ever changed. My mother had worked at the grocery store. My father had worked at the hardware store. They'd had me late after they'd given up on having kids. I was a surprise. Not necessarily a welcome one. I'd left when I was 18, saved up money from working at the diner in town, bought a bus ticket, came to the city with $500 and no plan. That was 7 years ago. I'd been surviving ever since. I'd worked at a coffee shop, a retail store, a call center, the diner. Always minimum wage. Always barely enough. I'd had roommates until they'd moved out and I couldn't afford anyone new. I'd had a boyfriend until he'd started hitting me and I'd left. I'd had dreams until reality had worn them down to nothing. Now I just had this. The overnight shift at Rosie's and an apartment with a broken radiator and $743 in rolled coins under my bed. Cade listened to all of it. Didn't interrupt. Didn't offer sympathy. Just listened. And when I was done, he said, "You're stronger than you think." I'm not strong. I'm just stubborn. Same thing. No, it's not. Strong people fight back. I just endure. Endurance is its own kind of strength. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to respond to this man who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I learned things about him too, not because he offered them, because I watched, because I noticed. He had a scar on the back of his left hand, thin and pale, like something had cut him a long time ago and healed imperfectly. He drank his coffee the same way every time, 3 sips before he set it down, always in the same rhythm, like a ritual. He wore a watch that looked old, expensive, the kind that got passed down through generations, but he never checked it, never seemed to care what time it was. When his phone rang, which it did often, he'd look at the screen, silence it, and put it back in his pocket. Never answered, never explained. Just silenced it and went back to whatever we'd been talking about. And people reacted to him. Not just me. Everyone. Dennis came out of the back office the 4th night Cade came in, saw him sitting in the corner booth. His face went white. Actually white. Like all the blood had drained out of it. He didn't say anything. Just gave Cade this little nod, this gesture of acknowledgement or maybe respect or maybe fear, and went back to the office. When I asked Dennis about it, later, after Cade had left, he told me to mind my business. Who is he? I asked. I said mind your business, Vera. Dennis. I mean it. That man is not someone you want to know about. Trust me. But I did want to know. Couldn't help it. Started paying more attention. The waitress who worked day shift, Marcy, she'd seen Cade before, at a restaurant downtown, one of the expensive ones. She said the owner had come out personally to greet him, had comped his entire meal and thanked him for coming. She said Cade had left a tip that was more than she made in a week. Who is he? I asked her. She looked at me like I was stupid. You really don't know? No. She leaned in closer, lowered her voice even though we were alone in the break room. He's connected. You understand what I'm saying? Connected to what? Not what. Who? He's connected to people. Important people. Dangerous people. What does that mean? It means you don't ask questions about Cade Harrow. It means you don't get involved. It means you take his money and you say thank you and you stay the hell away from him. But I couldn't stay away, because he kept coming back. Night after night. Same booth. Same coffee. Same quiet attention that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. 2 weeks after he first came to the diner, I asked him about it. Why do you keep coming here? The coffee's good. The coffee's terrible. He almost smiled. Then maybe I come for the company. I'm not good company. I disagree. Cade. I set down the coffee pot, sat across from him. What is this? What do you want? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I told you. Nothing you're not willing to give. But you want something. Yes. What? You. He said it simply, directly, like it was obvious. I want you, Vera. My breath caught. You don't even know me. I know enough. You know what I told you. That's not the same thing as knowing me. Then let me know you. Let me... He stopped. Started again. I saw you in that office, with your bag of coins and your pride. The way you stood there even though that woman was humiliating you. The way you didn't beg. Didn't cry. Just asked for what you'd earned. And I knew. Knew what? That you were different. That you were... He stopped again. Looked at me with those gray eyes. That you were mine. I should have laughed. Should have told him he was crazy. Should have walked away. But I couldn't. Because there was something in the way he said it. Not possessive in a creepy way. Not controlling. Just certain. Like he was stating a fact that had always been true and was just now saying it out loud. I'm not yours, I said. But my voice was weak. Not yet, he said. But you will be. He left his usual $100 bill on the table and walked out. I watched him go and tried to convince myself that I didn't want what he was offering. I failed. The next night, he didn't come. Or the night after that. Or the night after that. I told myself I wasn't disappointed. Told myself it was better this way. That whatever Cade Harrow was offering, I didn't need it. Didn't want it. I told myself a lot of lies. On the fourth night, I was walking home from my shift. 6:30 in the morning. The sun just starting to come up, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange that were almost beautiful if you ignored everything else. The cold. The smell of garbage. The broken glass on the sidewalk. I took my usual route. 4 blocks north, 2 blocks east. Past the bodega with the broken sign. Past the apartment building with the murals painted by some artist who'd moved away years ago. Past the playground with the rusty swings. I didn't see the man until he stepped out in front of me. Tall, broad, face that looked like it had been broken more than once. Nose crooked, scar through his eyebrow. He was wearing a jacket that was too thin for the weather, and his hands were in his pockets, and he was smiling. Not a nice smile. "Vera?" he said. I stopped. My whole body went cold. "Do I know you?" "No. But I know you." His smile widened. "You're the girl who's been spending time with Harrow." My stomach dropped. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, it's insulting." He took a step closer. I took a step back. "I've been watching, seeing you two at that diner. All those late-night chats. Sweet. Real sweet. I don't know him. He's just a customer." "Sure. That's why he paid your rent. That's why he's there every night. That's why." He paused, tilted his head. "You really don't know who he is, do you?" "No." "Huh." He seemed to find that funny. "Well, doesn't matter. You're going to give him a message for me. I told you, I don't know him." "You will. When you see him, you tell him Fallon says hello. You tell him we're even now. You understand?" "I'm not telling him anything." His expression changed. The smile disappeared. "You'll tell him? Because if you don't, I'll come back. And next time, I won't be so polite." A car pulled up to the curb. Black, sleek, expensive. The back door opened and Cade stepped out. He looked at me first. His eyes scanned my face, my posture, looking for damage, looking for injuries. Then he looked at Fallon. "Walk away," Cade said. His voice was quiet, calm, but there was something underneath it. Something cold and hard and absolutely unyielding. Fallon raised his hands. The smile came back. "Just having a conversation, Harrow. No harm intended. Walk away." The temperature seemed to drop. The street was empty. No one around. Just the three of us and the morning light, and the sense that something terrible was about to happen. Fallon's smile disappeared. "This isn't over." "Yes," Cade said. "It is." They stared at each other. Seconds passed. Maybe 10, maybe 20. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Then Fallon looked at me. "See you around, Vera." "No," Cade said. "You won't." Fallon laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Then he walked away. Just turned and walked down the street like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just threatened me. Like Cade hadn't just promised something I couldn't quite define. The car stayed at the curb. The driver stayed behind the wheel. Cade looked at me. "Get in," he said. "I'm fine." "Vera, get in the car." "I live 2 blocks from here. I can walk." "No, you can't." He said it with absolute certainty. "Get in the car." I should have argued. Should have insisted I was fine. Should have walked home and locked the door and pretended this hadn't happened. But my hands were shaking and my legs felt weak, and I was so tired of being afraid all the time. I got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and something else. Something expensive I couldn't name. Cedar, maybe. Or sandalwood. Cade slid in beside me and closed the door. The driver pulled away from the curb without being told where to go. "Who was that?" I asked. "Someone who won't bother you again." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you need." I looked at him, at his calm face, at his steady hands, at the way he sat there like this was normal, like men didn't just appear on street corners to threaten women he barely knew. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "This. All of this. The rent. The diner. The—" I gestured at the car, at him, at everything. "Why do you care?" He was quiet for a long time. The city moved past the windows. Familiar streets made strange by the tinted glass. People going to work, opening stores, starting their days. Normal people with normal lives. "I saw you," he said finally. "In that office. With your bag of coins and your pride and the way you refused to beg even though you were desperate. I saw you, and I knew." "Knew what?" "That you were mine." The words hung in the air between us. Heavy, undeniable, terrifying. "I'm not yours," I said. "Yes," he said quietly. "You are." The car stopped in front of my building. Cade got out first, opened my door, walked me to the entrance, waited while I fumbled with my keys. "Go inside," he said. "Lock the door. Don't answer it for anyone except me." "Cade, I'll take care of this." "Take care of what?" "What are you going to do?" He touched my face. Just once, his fingers brushing my cheek so gently I barely felt it. "Everything. Go inside, Vera." I went inside, locked the door, watched through the window as he got back in the car and it drove away. I didn't see Fallon again. Didn't see Cade for 3 days. When he finally came back to the diner, he looked different. Tired. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. His shirt was wrinkled. His hair was messy. When he sat down in his usual booth, he didn't order coffee. Didn't say anything. Just sat there. I brought him coffee anyway. Set it down in front of him. Slid into the seat across from him without asking. "What happened?" I said. "It's handled." "What does that mean?" "It means you're safe." "Cade." I leaned forward, kept my voice low even, though the diner was empty. "What did you do?" He looked at me then. Really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Something dark and tired and maybe a little bit broken. "What I had to," he said. I wanted to press, wanted to demand answers, but I could see it in his face. The weight of whatever he'd done, the cost of keeping me safe. And I realized I didn't want to know. Not really. Because knowing would make me complicit. Knowing would make me responsible. So I let it go. "Thank you," I said instead. He nodded, drank his coffee. When he left, he didn't leave money on the table, didn't say goodbye, just walked out. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe he was done. Maybe he'd handled the problem and now he'd disappear from my life like he'd never been there. I was wrong. Things started changing. Small things at first. Subtle. The superintendent showed up at my apartment 2 days later, fixed my radiator without me asking, said the landlord had requested it. When I tried to thank him, he just shrugged and left. My manager gave me better shifts. Sunday mornings instead of overnight Saturdays. Higher tips. Better customers. He didn't explain why. Just changed the schedule. The bodega owner started giving me discounts. Nothing major. $1 off here, $2 off there, but enough that I noticed. It took me a week to connect the dots, to understand that all of this was connected to Cade Harrow, that he'd quietly rearranged my life to make it easier. I should have been angry, should have felt manipulated, controlled, but I was just tired. Tired of struggling, tired of fighting, tired of being alone. When Cade came to the diner the following Friday, I was ready. "I need to talk to you," I said. He looked up from his coffee. "All right. Not here. Somewhere else. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Where? I don't care. Your choice. He took me to his apartment. It was downtown. High floor. Probably the 20th floor or higher. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city that made my chest ache because it was beautiful and terrible at the same time. All those lights, all those people, all those lives happening simultaneously. The apartment itself was minimalist, expensive but impersonal. Gray couch, black coffee table, white walls, no pictures, no personal items. Like a hotel room, like he didn't really live there. I stood in the middle of the living room and turned to face him. I can't do this, I said. Do what? Whatever this is? You paying for things? You fixing my life? You... I stopped. Started again. I can't be owned. I'm not asking you to be. Yes, you are. You said it yourself. You said I was yours. You are. I don't even know you. Not really. I know you come to the diner. I know you paid my rent. I know you did something to Fallon. But I don't know who you are. What you do. Why you live in this... I gestured at the apartment. This place that doesn't feel like anyone lives here. Crossed the room. Stood in front of me. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Smell his cologne. See the flecks of darker gray in his eyes. What do you want to know? He said. Everything. That's dangerous. I don't care. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he stepped back. Walked to the window. Stood there with his hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. I was born here, he said. South Side. You know it? I've heard of it. My father worked construction. My mother cleaned houses. We were poor, but we were fine. We had enough. Then my father got hurt. Fell off a scaffold. Broke his back. The company refused to pay. Said it was his fault. Said he should have been more careful. He paused. I waited. We lost everything. The apartment. The car. My mother had to work 3 jobs just to keep us fed. My father couldn't work at all. He'd sit in his chair all day watching TV and getting angry. Getting bitter. He started drinking. Then he started hitting her. Then he started hitting me. My heart squeezed. I was 16 when I dropped out of school. Started working. Anything I could find. Construction. Loading docks. Deliveries. I met a man. Older. Connected. Name was Garrett. He saw something in me. Took me under his wing. Taught me things. What kind of things? How to read people. How to make money. How to survive in a world that doesn't care if you live or die. He turned to look at me. How to hurt people who deserved it. My breath caught. I was good at it, Cade continued. Better than good. I moved up fast. Made the right friends. Made the right enemies. Learned how things really work. The systems underneath the systems. The money underneath the money. By the time I was 25, I owned half the South Side. By 30, I owned most of the city. Owned, I said. What does that mean? It means I run things. Quietly. Behind the scenes. It means people pay me for protection, for permission, for the privilege of doing business in my territory. It means I'm the reason this city works the way it does, the reason garbage gets picked up, and streets get plowed and problems disappear. You're a criminal. Yes. The word was simple, honest, final. I should leave, I said. You should. I should be terrified of you. Probably. I should want nothing to do with you. Most people do. But you're not most people. I stared at him, at this man who'd just admitted to being a criminal, who ran half the city from the shadows, who'd paid my rent and scared away Fallon and rearranged my life without asking permission. If I stay, I said slowly, if I do this, what does that mean? It means you're mine, completely. It means I protect you from everything and everyone, including myself when necessary. It means your problems become my problems. Your enemies become my enemies. It means I will do terrible things to keep you safe, and I will never apologize for it. And what do I have to do? Be mine. That's all. Just be mine. It should have been an easy answer. Should have been obvious. Run. Get out. Don't look back. But I was tired. So tired. Tired of counting coins. Tired of working overnight shifts. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being afraid. And Cade Harrow was offering me something I'd never had before. Security. Protection. Someone who saw me. Really saw me. And wanted me anyway. Okay, I said. Something changed in his face. The tension disappeared. His shoulders relaxed. He crossed to me in 2 strides and pulled me against him, his arms wrapping around me, holding me like I was something precious. You're mine now, he said into my hair. I know. He pulled back, looked down at me, and then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tentative. It was possession. Pure and simple. His hands in my hair, his mouth on mine, his body pressing me back against the wall. I should have been scared, should have pushed him away. I kissed him back. When he finally pulled away, we were both breathing hard. I need to take you home, he said. Why? Because if I don't, I won't stop. And you're not ready for that yet. How do you know? Because I know you, Vera. Better than you think. He drove me home, walked me to my door, kissed me again, slower this time, like he was memorizing the taste of me. Then he left. I went inside, locked the door, sat on my floor and tried to process what I'd just done. I'd just agreed to belong to a criminal, to a man who admitted he did terrible things, to someone who ran the city from the shadows. I should have been terrified. I wasn't. I felt safe. The next few weeks were strange. Cade didn't change my life dramatically. There was no sudden wealth, no new apartment, no obvious signs of his influence beyond what had already changed. But he was always there, not hovering, not controlling, just present. He'd show up at the diner, stay for an hour. We'd talk about everything and nothing. He told me more about his past, about Garrett, the man who'd taught him, about his mother's death when he was 23, about his father's death 2 years later, drunk and alone in a nursing home Cade had paid for but never visited. I told him more too, about my childhood in Pennsylvania, about my parents who'd never really wanted me, about leaving at 18 with nothing but hope, about watching that hope slowly die as I realized the city didn't care who you were or what you wanted. You're stronger than you think, he said one night. You keep saying that. Because it's true. How do you know? Because you survived. Because you're still here. Because... He reached across the table and took my hand. Because you didn't break. I feel broken. You're not. You're just tired. He wasn't wrong. Cade started taking me places. Dinner at restaurants I'd never been able to afford. Movies at the theater with the reclining seats. Walks through parts of the city I'd only seen from the bus. People noticed him everywhere we went. Recognized him. Some nodded. Some looked away quickly. Some came over to shake his hand, to thank him for something I didn't understand, to ask for favors I pretended not to hear. He was polite to everyone, but there was always distance, always a wall between him and them. He let them close enough to speak but no further. With me, there was no wall. With me, he was different. Softer. More open. He'd hold my hand while we walked, put his arm around me in the movie theater, kiss my forehead when he thought I wasn't paying attention. It was terrifying how quickly I got used to it, how quickly I started to depend on it. 2 months after that night in his apartment, my ex-boyfriend Marcus showed up. I hadn't thought about Marcus in 2 years. Hadn't wanted to. He was the reason I'd moved to the city in the first place. We'd been together for 3 years. Met when I was 19. He'd been charming at first. Funny. Attentive. Sweet. Then he'd started drinking. Then he'd started getting angry. Then he'd started hitting me. It had taken me a year to leave. A year of black eyes I covered with makeup and bruises I explained away, and fear I swallowed down until I couldn't breathe. I'd packed a bag while he was at work, got on a bus, changed my number, deleted my social media, disappeared. I thought I was safe. I was wrong. He was waiting outside my building when I came home from the diner. 7 in the morning. I was tired, thinking about sleep, thinking about the fact that Cade was picking me up later for dinner. I didn't see Marcus until it was too late. "Vera," he said. I froze, every muscle in my body locked. My heart started racing, my hands started shaking. "No," I said, "just want to talk." "No." I started walking faster toward my building. He followed. "Come on, baby, I came all this way." "Don't call me that. I've changed, I swear. I'm sober now. 6 months clean. I just want to apologize, make things right." I reached my building, fumbled for my keys. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold them. He grabbed my arm. "Let go," I said. "Just listen. Let go of me." His grip tightened. "You don't get to just walk away from me. You don't get to disappear and act like what we had didn't matter." "It didn't matter, you hit me. I was sick, I'm better now. I don't care, let go." "Vera." A car door opened. I heard it before I saw it. Black car. Expensive. Familiar. Cade stepped out. Marcus let go of me immediately. Took 2 steps back. Cade didn't say anything. Didn't need to. He just looked at Marcus. And Marcus, who'd spent 3 years making me feel small and scared and worthless, shrank. "Who the fuck are you?" Marcus said. But his voice was weak. Uncertain. Cade walked past him. Put his hand on my back. Gentle. Protective. Guided me toward his car. "Hey," Marcus said. "Hey, I'm talking to you." Cade stopped. Turned. One look. That was all it took. Marcus stopped talking. Stopped moving. Just stood there. Cade helped me into the car. Got in beside me. The driver pulled away. I watched Marcus in the side mirror. Getting smaller. Smaller. Until he disappeared. "How did you know?" I asked. "I'm always watching." "That should bother me." "Does it?" I thought about it. About the way I'd felt when Marcus grabbed me. The terror. The helplessness. The way my body had remembered even though my mind had tried to forget. About the way Cade had appeared. Like he'd been waiting. Like he'd known. "No," I said. "It doesn't." Cade took my hand, held it in both of his. His hands were warm, solid, real. "He won't bother you again," he said. "You can't know that." "Yes, I can." And I believed him. 3 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice. Professional. Polite. "Ms. Vera, this is Rachel Voss. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Harrow." "Okay." "I wanted to inform you that Marcus Denton has left the city. He won't be returning. If you need anything, anything at all, you can call me at this number." She gave me the number. I wrote it down on the back of an old receipt. "What happened to him?" I asked. "He relocated. For work. It was encouraged." "I see. Is there anything else you need?" "No. Thank you." I hung up. Stared at the number for a long time. Then I saved it in my phone under Rachel Cade. That night, Cade took me to his apartment. We sat on his couch, and he held me while I cried. Not because I missed Marcus. Because I was relieved. Because I was grateful. because I was terrified of how much I'd come to depend on this man who solved my problems with methods I couldn't think about too closely. "I'm a terrible person," I said into his chest. "Why?" "Because I'm glad. Whatever you did to him, wherever he is, I'm glad." "That doesn't make you terrible. It makes you human. I should feel guilty." "Do you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Tried to find the guilt, the shame, the moral outrage. There was nothing. "No," I said. "Then don't." He kissed the top of my head, held me tighter, and I let myself sink into him, into the safety, into the certainty. I was his now, completely. And I was starting to understand what that meant. Winter came. The city turned gray and cold and unforgiving. I kept working at the diner, but Cade started insisting I take more time off. "You don't need to work yourself to death," he said. "I need the money." "No, you don't. Cade, Vera, you don't need the money. You have me." It should have bothered me, the implication, the assumption, but it didn't. Because he was right. I didn't need the money. My rent was always paid. My bills were always covered. The coins under my bed sat untouched because I didn't need them anymore. My manager started giving me Sundays off. Said he was being generous. I knew better. I started keeping clothes at Cade's apartment, a toothbrush, my own coffee mug. Small things that added up to something bigger. We still didn't talk about what he did, the specifics, but I learned anyway. Through the people who called him at odd hours, through the way he'd sometimes leave in the middle of the night and come back hours later, through the blood I'd see on his knuckles, the tension in his shoulders, the way he'd look at me like I was the only good thing in his life. He never lied to me. When I asked if he was okay, he'd tell me the truth. When I asked if someone was hurt, he'd say yes. When I asked if it was his fault, he'd say it was necessary. And I'd accept it. Because what else could I do? In February, he asked me to move in with him. We were in his kitchen. He was cooking, something he did surprisingly well, and I was sitting on the counter drinking wine and watching him. "Move in with me," he said. Not a question, a statement. "I have a lease. I'll handle it. Cade." He stopped what he was doing, turned to face me. "I want you here. Every night. I want to wake up next to you. I want to come home to you. Move in with me." "This is happening fast." "No, it's not. It's been happening since the moment I saw you. We're just catching up to it." He wasn't wrong. Everything with Cade felt inevitable, like we'd been moving toward this from the very beginning. "Okay," I said. He smiled. Actually smiled. It was rare enough that it made my breath catch. I moved in the following week. I didn't have much to bring. A few boxes of clothes, some books. The shoebox of coins I still couldn't bring myself to deposit. Cade hired movers even though I could have carried everything myself. He wanted it done right, he said. Wanted me settled. Living with him was easier than I expected. He worked strange hours but was always careful to be quiet when I was sleeping. He'd leave notes when he had to go out. Text me throughout the day. And at night, when he came home, he'd find me. Hold me. Like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. We slept together for the first time on a Thursday in March. It wasn't planned. We were on the couch watching a movie and he kissed me and things escalated and suddenly we were in his bed and he was looking at me like I was something sacred. "We don't have to," he said. "I want to. Vera." He brushed my hair back from my face. "Once we do this, that's it. You understand? There's no going back. You'll be mine in every way." I already am. And I was. I had been for months. He was gentle, careful, like he was afraid I might break. But there was intensity there too. Possession. The way he said my name. The way he looked at me. The way he held me after. "I love you," he said. It was the first time either of us had said it. I love you too, I said. And I meant it. Things should have been perfect after that. And they were, for a while. But perfection doesn't last. Not in Cade's world. The problem started in April. Someone was moving into Cade's territory, trying to set up operations without permission, without paying tribute. I heard about it through conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. Phone calls Cade took in his office. The tension that radiated off him when he came home. Is everything okay? I asked one night. It will be. Can I help? No, just... He pulled me close. Just be here, that's all I need. The man behind the encroachment was named Petrel. I learned his name accidentally. Cade was on a call and I was in the kitchen and the door wasn't closed all the way. I don't care what Petrel thinks he can do, Cade said. His voice was different. Cold. Flat. The voice he used when he was done negotiating. He pays or he leaves. Those are his options. A pause. Then make him understand. I don't care how. Another pause. Do it tonight. He hung up. Found me in the kitchen 10 minutes later. Knew immediately that I'd heard. Don't ask, he said. I wasn't going to. Vera. I said I wasn't going to ask. I set down my coffee. I know what you do. I'm not naive. No, he said quietly. You're not. He held me, and I held him back. We were both too far in now to pretend otherwise. Petrel disappeared that night. I saw it on the news the next morning. Local businessman missing, police investigating. Cade came home at dawn. No blood on his clothes, no evidence, just exhaustion in every line of his body. Is it done? I asked. Yes. I made him breakfast. We didn't talk about it. Never talked about it again. But something had shifted. I wasn't just Cade's girlfriend, I was complicit. Part of this. And there was no going back. Spring turned to summer. I quit my job at the diner in June. Cade had been asking me to quit for months. You don't need it anymore, he said. I like having my own money. I know. But you're exhausted all the time. And that neighborhood isn't safe at night. I've been fine. You've been lucky. That's not the same thing. He was right. So I quit. And it felt like losing the last piece of who I used to be. But it also felt like relief. I spent my days reading, exploring the city, learning to cook. Cade gave me a credit card with no limit. I barely used it. Couldn't shake the habit of checking price tags, of calculating if I could afford something. Why don't you buy things? He asked. I don't need things. That's not what I asked. I thought about it. I don't know how to want things anymore. I spent so long surviving that I forgot how to live. He looked sad. Then learn, please. For me. So I tried. Bought books. Clothes that fit. Went to museums and restaurants. And slowly I remembered what it felt like to be more than just surviving. But summer didn't stay peaceful. August brought everything crashing down. The phone rang at 3 a.m. Cade answered on the second ring. What? I couldn't hear the other side, but I watched his face change. Watched him go from sleepy to alert to something I'd never seen before. Fear. Where? He said. Pause. I'm coming. He hung up, got out of bed, started getting dressed. What's wrong? I asked. Stay here. Cade, what's wrong? He stopped. Looked at me. Someone took something of mine. I need to get it back. What did they take? He didn't answer. Just kissed me hard and left. I didn't sleep. Sat in the dark. Watched the sun come up. Watched my phone stay silent. He came back at noon. Blood on his shirt. Not much, but enough. Are you hurt? I asked. No. Whose blood is it? Don't ask. I helped him out of the shirt. There was a cut on his arm. Shallow. Long. I cleaned it. Bandaged it. What happened? I asked. Petrel had a brother. Wanted revenge. My stomach dropped. What did he take? Doesn't matter, I got it back. Cade. He's dead, Vera, the brother. It's over. Did you? Yes, I did. He said it so simply, like it was nothing. You killed him, I said. Yes. Because of me. Because he tried to hurt what's mine. I should have been horrified. Should have run. All I felt was relief. Okay, I said. Okay? I kissed him. Okay. That night, lying beside him, I realized I'd changed. Fundamentally. The woman with the bag of coins wouldn't recognize me. I didn't care. Fall came. Cade started talking about the future. Marry me, he said one night. No preamble, no romance, just a statement. Why? Because I want you protected. Legally. If something happens to me, nothing will happen. Vera, something could always happen, and I need to know you're taken care of. Is this a proposal or estate planning? Both. I laughed. Then yes. We married 3 weeks later. City Hall. No guests. Just us. You're mine now, he said, sliding the ring on my finger. I was already yours. Now it's official. And it was. I was Vera Harrow, his wife. His. Marriage didn't change much. We were the same. He worked. I existed in the space he'd created. We loved each other. But there was always an undercurrent. The knowledge that this couldn't last forever. December came. Cade was tense. Something was happening. Something big. The night it ended, he almost stayed. Don't go, I said. I have to. Please. I'll be back by morning, I promise. He kissed me. Left. The call came at 4 a.m. Mrs. Harrow, this is Mercy Hospital. The world tilted. Is he alive? You should come. I don't remember the drive. Just standing in a white hallway while a doctor told me my husband had been shot. He's in surgery. It's serious, but he's stable. I waited. Alone. For hours. When the doctor came out, he's alive. He's going to make it. I went to his room, saw him pale and bandaged and unconscious, and I realized I couldn't do this. Couldn't live, wondering if he'd die. But I also couldn't leave. So I stayed. When he woke, his eyes found me. You're here. Where else would I be? Safe. Away from me. I'm safe right here. I'm sorry. For what? For all of it. I chose this. I said. I'm not leaving. I love you. I know. I love you too. He came home 2 weeks later. The shooter was found dead the next day. Life returned to normal. Or what passed for normal. We existed in our balance. He protected me. I protected him from the weight of his choices. On our first anniversary, he took me to the property management office, the same one where we met. He handed me keys. I bought the building. It's yours. Why? Because that's where I found you. Where everything started. I cried. Kissed him. We left. Walked into the summer evening. I was happy. Not simply. Not easily. But genuinely. I'd been invisible once. Now I was seen. Protected. Loved. The cost had been high. My independence. My innocence. But I'd paid it willingly. Cade took my hand. And I held on just as tight.